Okay, so I went live. It's like almost near my closet. I'm live, and I want to see if this is going. I wanted to talk about this thing of the ADOS. And of course, it's just another sidetrack. Even now, the hype of the so-called American descendants of slaves is pretty much dying out in social media. But come on and say that we have to stop with the sideshows. We have to be able to uh, come to grips with the fact that the only solution for the black man is to leave the United States and start a new life elsewhere. You see, the problem with all of the hoopla is that you continually, talk. And Malcolm X Marcus Garvey, Al Sharpton, you can go through the whole list of all of the black people that get on social media and talk. And at the end of the day, it's just it's just it's just talk. And all of that is based on one thing. Slavery, everything is based on economics. Everything that we're talking about as far as black people in America, the common denominator is that it's economics. And sometime in the past, whites had decided that they can outrun us. They couldn't outbox us. They couldn't, they would be carrying 2 logs for the winter fire, and then they turn around and a black man is carrying 4 logs. Meanwhile, their white wife is on the porch looking at this. So how does that make them feel? I mean, if we got to go back to the root of all of this. If you're running a race against a white guy, and you beat the white guy by 20 yards. Think about what's going through his mind as he's looking forward and seeing you run faster than he could never do. How does he feel? You see? And so he has to be feeling really, defeated. So since all he has is the land, which he was able to wrestle away from the so-called American Indians who really didn't want the land anyway, used us to develop the land and issue. You see, the economic portion is not fully addressed. The one thing great about the one good thing, the one thing black people do great is they know how to ignore, and we ignore our economic situation and what it has done to us. We just live and we do a lot of pretending, but when you break it all the way down, statistics don't lie. Economically, we can't seem to get off of the runway. Every other group comes and they're able to fly up and make money in America, but the black doesn't. Why? Because of racism. What is racism? Racism is economics, and you have to look at it as that way. So if you're being economically deprived, then you really can't enjoy life the way they show you people enjoy life on the television. So what is at the root of economics? What's at the root of economics is land. Land is the basis of everything. That's where we all the minerals come from, gold, silver, blah blah. Yeah, it's all about the land, and that was why we were brought here in slavery during slavery, because the white man, the British, they tried to land in South America, but the Spanish wanted it. You see, so everywhere they went, the Spanish was gonna kill them. You see, as soon as they found out they were, so the Pilgrims could land was in the north, and in the north that land was uninhabitable. Indians living there, or great cities. Those Mayan cities they were talking about were the cities in South America. Spanish had already by the time barely survived. Now the Indians that they did see were those who escaped slavery from South America. They had been forced to come up into the cold weather in the north, and they were trying to survive just like the British had to do. They had a couple of 100 years ahead of them. There was no great Indian civilization. There, uh, and then the white man came and did the same thing to them that the Spanish had did to their ancestors, which forced them up into North America in the first place. So this idea of the Hebrew Israelites, they was there when the white man came. No, the weather would not allow it. If people are dying in the weather in the north today, surely what you can imagine what they was going through in the 14th in 14th century. You see, whites couldn't even progress in there in the land until they was able to bring enough firewood so that they could survive the winter. See, because if you didn't chop enough firewood when winter came, you fucked. That's the end of you. Just that simple. And whites, uh, couldn't really had that type of strength to and power to cut down all the wood that they needed. But they found that the blacks had that ability. And so watching them blacks chop down trees, twice as much as they could, the only thing they could think of was, boy, we need more blacks. See, because they couldn't survive, and blacks could survive in the wintertime better. And the problem came that the white woman was preferring black men over the whites, and there were very few women, so there were white men saying that they, their own women didn't want them, and the black woman surely didn't want them at that time. If they had a choice, they would take the darker option. So what they did was when they were starting to establish societies, they started creating laws that came out and said that whites couldn't marry blacks, and this was so that they could at least have women to be forced the women to be with them. But that didn't even solve the question of that blacks were superior. So that's when they started creating this inferiority idea that blacks were inferior to whites. This is where this idea of the white man started to come in. They didn't have a term for white man until 1600s. So that's the one part, and this is a short video. And I want to talk about the other part that we've been on the chat line, and we've been talking about land, land in Africa. I want to buy land. They won't let us, but Africans won't let us own the land. Please, land is a liability. Buying land is a liability. Buying a house is a liability. You ain't gonna never find a rich white person that say, "Ooh, I got my millions because I bought a house." No. In fact, they sell the house. That's the first thing they sell when they start to lose money is those big houses. So houses are not what we've been, made to believe like in the United States, you feel like you got to buy a home and then you get equity. No, that only thing that does is limit. All it does is limit your movement. Now, if you talk about buying land in Africa, because these guys are talking about buying land in Ghana and then building a house, let me explain this to you. You can buy land, but if it's no drainage system built in, if you can't see an electrical pole in view, uh, then your land is. Even if you built a house, you couldn't survive there. Unless you got solar, and and this is the case. Without running water or drainage system, you're going to be using buckets. You see, so not that that's a bad thing, but I'm saying you have to be prepared for that. And once you build the house, then you're set. That's where you are. Now, if you come into Africa to live and you're 30 something, you only got 20 years of active ability really to work. And in that 20 years, you need to get an African woman, get some children, and then raise those children so that they can be able to pick up for you where you left off. It's a cycle of life. You don't come here thinking about yourself. No, you're just gonna die a selfish person in Africa. In a lonely house, because we have been trained to believe that a house is a status symbol and a car is a status symbol. But in Africa, it's the quality of life that you lead, that you live every day, the amount of friends you have that you can call upon to help you. These are the things that are valuable in Africa. Not like in the United States where, people don't have that mindset. It's like a doggy dog mindset in the United States. But every time you come to Africa or you hear people talk about Africa, they say, "Oh, the people are so friendly. The people are so friendly." It's not that they're friendly. It's just that the place where you are, the people are not friendly. You see? And so when you come around other people, you're like, "Oh, they're so nice," but they're just being normal. That's normal behavior. What you have in the United States, where people die in their house and they go undiscovered for 2 and 3 weeks because nobody bothered to go check on them. That's a sad lifestyle. It's a sad lifestyle where you get into your 60s, you have a health problem, you can no longer work, your pension money runs out, and then you go to they stick you in some old folks home, and they take all your social security money and they just give you a bed and a sheet until you die. And that's where a lot of our people end up. And this is unfair. You see, it's unnecessary. When you can have the proper life in an African country where there are no old folks' homes in Africa, your family will take care of you. So whether you're going to seek out to try to buy a house to try to impress people, or buy a car and when you get to Africa and try to impress people, or go out and party all night, try to impress people, you need to build a foundation for the end part of your life, because it's going to come, and that's a fact. You're going to get old and you're going to die. Now, you're going to die suffering alone. Those are jokes. You know, it's like Steve Harvey said, you can live without family members, and you can live without boss, you can live without this, but you can't live without friends. This society, not money. That's a capitalistic mindset. So they can build a house, they're going to pay taxes on that house. You see, but if you come into Africa and you talk about the first thing in your mind, like, I'm gonna buy me a piece of land to show who, what? No. If you're in your 30s or your 40s, forget about that. That's just a waste of energy. So uh you have to have a real mindset. And I'm not saying that everybody from America, black people, gonna come uh to Africa. I'm simply saying that if you're gonna make that decision that you're gonna change your life, that's because it's a big life change. There's no doubt about that. Uh, you should be doing it for your children's sake. If you're in your 30s, 40s, definitely you should be doing that for your children's sakes. Now, I'm 60 years old, and I had a lot of bad relationships, and I had to start over again multiple times. And I didn't get I didn't get it right till I was in my 50s, and I have a 2-year old daughter. So I just keep my health up, and I see the quality of life. I have a 18-year-old son. He's here. I'm teaching him. I'm mentoring him, and he's helping me. So that I know 10 years from now, I'll give him all the information he needs, all the knowledge he needs, so that he can prosper and then take care of me. And he was going to do that naturally because that's what you do in Africa. He's not going to stick me in an old folks' home. And for you people that's 30 and 40 years old, you need to think about that if you're going to come to Africa, because your time is going to run out really quick when you're going to find yourself either having an economic stagnation where your money is either very limited or non-existent, or you're going to have to, uh, end up, going back to the United States and trying to depend on those relatives you have in life to start a new life again, because that's all you know. And that would be a sad case. So when you talk about coming to Africa, like people talk about going to Ghana, which I don't agree with, coming to Kenya, don't think about buying land. You take that money and you use it to build yourself a foundation, and you make your foundation as flexible as possible. You just simply rent. You don't buy. Houses are not uh, equity. Huh? No matter what they try to tell you. You see, because I own the house. I bought a house and when I was young, and it was like, all my friends, no, my friends didn't want to come to my house. You see, so you think like you're gonna impress people with your house, and so what am I doing? Really trying to impress people who I barely know that because I got a big house. You see what I'm saying? It's a joke. It doesn't it doesn't really work out the way you think it does. You even lose family and friends because you got a house in the city, and they start to try to exploit you to stay, and you got a house. You see, and maybe you got like a bedroom that's free and it's a shady area you don't know, and asking you. You just see it's like you end up forcing to say yes, you got to pay rent, but then they don't pay the rent. Then you see you just got it becomes a big mess. Or even some people can say they can rent their house out, but you're never gonna get the money back by renting. And renters may anytime a renter takes up your house, at any one point they can leave, or they can just stop paying rent, or they can mess up your house. You're still not gonna make up if you spend I would say 6 million shillings to build your house. There's no way you're gonna rent the house for any more than like 25,000 a month. So you see how long it's gonna take you. 25,000 shillings a month. You see how long it's gonna take you to get your money back. You see, it's not a viable thing. And I don't want to. I know I'm upset a lot of people, but I just have to tell the truth. That's the whole purpose of the video. So let me see what we got in the chat line before I get off this thing. It says here, Doug, you're all over the place. Racism is in keeping blacks from economic growth. Most blacks in America isn't financially. Yeah. Okay, if I get you right, definitely we got a financial problem. But like I said at the beginning, is economics. Racism is a system that's put in place to keep us economically down. So you'd be shocked at how far you could go living in an African country, because you wouldn't be appeased by all of the little subtle things that racism brings out in people. So I would expect that we start to analyze that, and you can look at your own economic situation, and you can see like that thing is by design. You know, everywhere you go, there's advertisements, things to make you buy things. Some of you guys got like a big garage full of things you're never gonna use again. And you're saying like you spent all that money for that. You got credit card bills, you don't know what you bought with it. It's because psychologically this thing is in place, and it's gonna make you spend, spend, spend. Credit, debt, debt, debt. You don't have that when you come to Africa. It's a straightforward, simple life, and you can then build off of that. As far as let me see what else. Okay, uh, so come to Africa and just rent. Yes, I'm saying you come to Africa and just rent. You're not buying a house. Think about what I'm explaining to you. I know it's different than what you might normally be in hearing, but if between the difference between renting a house and buying a house, which one is going to limit you? You see, You gonna go, you'll go around in Africa, and you even in America, you can go around. You can see half built houses, half built apartment buildings, half built office buildings, because it takes a lot of money to build those things, and you don't get the money back in in the short term. You're going to it take a long time, and you know, I know some people they had this as a dream. I even had that dream too. Oh, I'm gonna own my own home. I'm gonna be respected. It doesn't really work like that. I'm just trying to tell you, keeping it real with you, and really want to be real with you in Africa, because you're gonna be in somebody's community, an African community from a different particular tribe. That area is gonna be those people. They're not gonna understand you. You ain't gonna understand them. They're gonna accept you, but they're gonna accept you as that foreigner guy that bought the house in the community. Yeah, it's not like you're gonna be like, you can just walk around the street and act like you're just a normal person. No, you're gonna always stand out, because that's rare for us and Americans to own houses. So, I seen plenty of white people come here, they buy a house, they fix it all up the way they want in the middle of poverty, and then in the middle of the night, a group of Africans come in there and raid them. So, it's just like it doesn't make sense to do that. So they had to end up house because they had fixed it up. No, it was priced out of the market. Nobody wanted to buy it or could afford it. They took it back to Europe and left it like that unattended. This happens all the time with white people. You don't go here, come here and buy a house. You rent. You'll know when the time is right for you to settle down and buy a house. So no, I would not. I would not advocate that. Okay, again, land is not an asset. You have to think about it. In your situation, you come in not like you were 22 years old in your own country. No, you're in another country, and to be honest, you don't know how it's going to be. I know that, and you don't understand what's going to happen from here. There, you might come to a place, decide that you find a better place, but it's too late now because already bought land in this place. So when I came to Kenya, I lived in Nairobi. I thought Nairobi was the greatest thing. And only 5 years later, I took a trip to Mombasa, and I was like, oh, that whole thing about Nairobi just changed. And I've been blessed to be able to live in Mombasa. It's like the Palm Springs. If you know California, it's like Palm Springs. It's like the beach is right here. It's a tourist city, and it's not so much. It's not so many economic job opportunities like in Nairobi. But if you're blessed and be able to stay in this place, the weather is just the greatest. People are really friendly. Food is fresh. It's a really nice kickback life, and I've been blessed to live here for 15 years. But still, I go back to Nairobi, when because to make money. If I want to make some serious money, I go make some deals, and I go back to Nairobi. So I just want to point this out to you guys. Thank you for watching. This is my first time doing the live stream like this, and then I hope I can get back to you guys. So thank you.